art seems to be created as a response or a result of adversity. So people will create it to cope with adversity, channel the pain from adversity. Do you relate to that? And if so, like, what's the earliest memory you have of something that art helped you channel?
Yeah, no, I do. And I do think art is a response to adversity or a response to communicating feelings that you don't have the words for. And my earliest memory of that was doing graffiti in middle school. I was into hip hop. I was into like the East Coast, West Coast beef. And I started learning about the elements of hip hop. And so if you're creative and you're an artist, you do graffiti. I was young, naive. I thought, okay, I can get into this. And there was also an element of rebellion.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I love your line that the canvases got got larger and slightly illegal.
yes.
Whatever.
Yeah. And it immediately. And so one, you're learning about this new medium of graffiti, but also the element of doing it in, disguise or, trying to just sneak around to do it. So you're learning about, wow, I'm willing to put my life on the line or my freedom on the line for this art, and you just start to believe in it more. And I think that the adversity, or I think the feelings that maybe I was trying to communicate was I loved creating so much. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even putting my freedom on the line to do it. Luckily, I never got arrested. There were some close calls.
What was the closest?
This one particular night, it was a very typical night, out with a couple friends, painting on some walls near these train tracks. And I remember seeing in the distance these blue and red lights. And we knew exactly like it was time
Yeah,
to go.
let's go.
And we see this shadow of a police officer running, not just like jogging towards us, like Usain Bolt sprinting.
It's like T-1000 from Terminator 2.
Yeah. And I was young, but I was not in shape. So we start taking off down these railroad tracks in South Sacramento. And then there was this 8-foot stone wall between the two different scenarios, which was going back with the police officer or making it over this wall, assuming he couldn't make it over the wall. So, or I was also thinking I have to run faster than at least one of my friends.
That's smart.
So,
That'll
no,
work.
It was not good, but I was thinking that. But we all made it over the wall, and I just was like, and like you can hear like the chatter on the walkie-talkies.
Did he go for it? Did he try to?
He tried to get over, couldn't get over. But we ran at that point. And, that was the closest. And I think that was a huge turning point for me where, yes, I'm willing to do anything, but I still had a feeling like there was more than this. Like the road for graffiti artists at that time, I think they were barely starting to show in galleries, and maybe you can get like design work through this, but I hadn't really seen that yet. And I just still felt like there's got to be more than this. So I didn't stop. It reminded me that there's probably more to this creative journey.
And what was the journey to the more? Because you found it.
Yeah, the journey to more was my high school animation teacher, Sean Sullivan. So he was the only reason why I'm probably sitting in front of you today. And I remember walking across the high school basketball court to his class. He was waiting outside because a teacher was bringing me to him saying he's creative, but we don't know what to do with him. And he has like this coaching presence, and you usually don't get that in art classes. You usually get the opposite. You're like, hey, it's okay.
Do your
it's
thing.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's not what I needed. And he was what I needed. He was like, get your ass in shape. Get it together. You have an incredible talent and you're going to freaking waste it by doing this. Now, he didn't end with that. He said, now I have this other option, animation, where there's this massive industry that supports this skill set. And if you learn it, you will be successful in it.
Goosebumps. Dude.
So I
That's
was
awesome.
like, show me more. And it was literally one of those moments where I did all the work and I was like, I'm done. What else can I do? And I would come back at lunch. I would come back after
so
school.
you loved it. You felt that it gave you that feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the value that I got from that time and his energy put into me and many other students. I was not the only one. He has many other successful students. That's how you know what he was doing was special. And it wasn't just like a one-off random.
What do you think it was? Do you think it was the militant approach to developing talent, or do you think he could see talent where others couldn't?
I think Sullivan saw two things. He saw this growing industry of arts, media, and entertainment outside of movie theaters and rental DVDs. There was like this foresight where you can kind of see where maybe the internet and content could go. And the industry was sort of saying like, look, we don't have enough people for this. And that's where he was looking at. It's like, well, if I develop the talent for this industry, then I'm going to guarantee my job. I'm going to guarantee my program grows, and then these students become successful. So that's what he did. It was the foresight of this industry, and then the way he taught. He ran his studio he ran his classroom like a studio. You don't do good, you get demoted. You do better, you get promoted. So he made that very clear, and that really, I think it more than instilled, it brought out the best in students, and the ones that really wanted to work got to work.
That's awesome. So that was in high school. You left high school, right? Was it?
I left. I did not get the diploma, but I left, and that was hard because I really felt like I let down Sullivan. Not to fast forward too much, but as soon as I started gaining a little bit more traction of growing my name for my art in Sacramento, a reporter called him and said, "How do you feel about one of your best students not graduating high school?" And he's like, "Oh, excuse me?"
Oh.
So I lied to him, and I said that I graduated. And then he called me.
Oh.
And I thought, I'm leaving this high school. I'm never going to see this guy again. Like, thank you, but I'm moving on with my life.
Right.
And that was not him. He's like, "What is this I hear about you didn't graduate?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm taking care of it. I'm getting my GED." He's like, "You better." Fast forward to, God, what year was it? It was like a decade later. I was at a dinner with him, and a former friend now brought up, he never got his GED, and he was like so hurt and sad and mad all at once. Like, why are you lying to me about this? I'm like a grown, successful adult, and I was carrying this lie with me to this person that changed my life and gave me so much. Like,
So that it was affecting you that you lied.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it started with that little white lie, like as a 18-year-old high school student that didn't graduate. I had other issues in my family going on. And then I'm like in survival mode. I'm like, saying whatever I needed to get out of it. And it was like, I can't keep this up. I can't live like this with the person that I care about and changed my life so much. So I was honest with him, and I said, I don't know when it'll be, but I will get my diploma. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Hell yeah.
I mean, not to kind of bring full circle to that story is I signed up to get my high school diploma last year, and I just finished in May of 2024, and I'll be graduating June 27th of 2024. One of the biggest dreams come true to me.
That's so cool.
After all these years, to finally see him, see my family, and wear the cap and gown and achieve that goal.
Are you done, or do you have finals left?
Oh, I'm
and
done.
stuff?
Oh, I finished my final test, my final essays. I only had about 20 credits to do, but it still took time. I have a very busy schedule and kids and life. The reminder to me was the other adults getting their high school diploma alongside with me. And I'm like, if they are here doing the work, I should be able to figure this out too. So they were a motivation for me as well to just get it together, put my head down, and get the work done.
Dang. And that's on top of touring and
yeah.
kids and everything else. All the pressure's on you. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I went back to school in my late 20s, and the first essay I turned in literally had like K. Like, I was texting and there was a lowercase I, and I thought, oh man, it took like 2 semesters to catch up. I can't imagine waiting even longer. So my hat's off to you, man. Anyone who goes back to school in their adult years, serious respect.
Yeah, it's not easy. And again, I only had 20 credits. I'm thinking about the people that have, maybe 2 years of high school to do, and they're in their 30s. And but here's what I learned, and from meeting the people that are, let's just say, rounded up in their 30s, going back to better their life, is they got to a point where they realized that they need to personally grow to achieve the next dream or level in their life. And at that simple level, that core value of just what we get to experience in humanity is that's just one example of that. Of if you want more, you can create it. There's outlets for you to do this. You know, that one of the saddest things is that when you look at such people who are in poverty, in those situations where they're just in survival mode, they haven't got to the point where they're like, I want to thrive. They don't even know what thriving in life is
They don't have time
yet.
to be creative.
They haven't been taught about what this is. So to get to that point and say, you know, I want to thrive in life. What do I need to do? And if that's going back to high school, if it's getting your college degree, or even training to help you grow in a company that you've been in for 10 years, like, why am I not going anywhere? Well, I need to better myself. I need to grow internally.
One thing that also fascinates me about artists is everybody's got a different creative process. I hear some people say, no, man, I get, I put on some incense, I meditate, and these ideas come to me and I act on them. And other people are, I had Bugby on, the local Sacramento, and he said, oh, dude, such great energy. I mean,
That
he's in
guy.
here, dude, incredible. He walks in,
he's a
hugs.
superstar. Yeah,
he
he's
is.
a superstar.
And he's just gonna be incredible to people that run
Yes.
into him. You know he's gonna handle it well. So good things coming for that dude. But he said he'll go in a room and the Beatles start flowing and he just starts belting out sounds. It'll sound like Shakira or it'll sound like someone screaming or whatever. And he comes up with it that way. What's your process like? Do you get into a place where you go and I am creating now? I had my coffee, it's 10, I do my art, or does it come to you in pieces, inspiration? You talk a little about it?
Yeah, so there's I haven't read a lot of books, but one of the books that I read was The War of Art by James Pressfield. And there's a line in his book, and I remember reading it, and I was already like really into my career, and it made me think about my process. And there's a line there he says, inspiration strikes every morning at 9 a.m. when I clock in.
Okay.
That's my process. Like, I try to make sure that I don't need to feel inspired to create. I need to create.
So discipline.
Yeah, the discipline of just showing up. I need to just start creating to inspire me. And so that could be like one thing that I do is I do a lot of live streams and the clock is counting down and I just got to like pull an image. There's things that I'm creating sometimes where I'm not just fully there yet, but I always know it's just like working out. Once your body starts moving, your mind starts, the sparks start flying, you get in that zone and then it just starts coming to me. And so that's, I think, why it translated so well to be able to create in many different environments, because I always feel inspired. And if I'm not, I know that once I start moving and creating, it'll start coming to me. I used to, add a little coffee or wine to the aspect,
Sure.
but again, I just thought I got to take out the barriers of what's keeping me from just creating, because that's the ultimate goal. It's just to start moving. I would say the other biggest element of my creative process is music. All kinds of music. I mean, Broadway, music, scores for soundtracks. It could be electronic music, just something that helps me see color moving, and I can kind of start envisioning a portrait coming to life on the canvas and envisioning my steps to bring it to life. So music is a huge part. It helps me envision bringing these objects and shapes together, which is ultimately what creates the portrait on the canvas.
You walked in and I was like, dude, why do you look like you're 28 and you're older than me? And you said, I think it's art. Can you talk a little bit about that? You think it's helping you process emotions that would otherwise store and kind of rot you from the inside out?
Yeah. I think art definitely keeps me young. I don't think everyone would agree with that, because art could be stressful in some people's lives. I look at it like I get to create like a child every day. I get an idea and I get to go make it. And that's usually not the case when you're living a traditional adult life. You have to wait until maybe you're retired to do the things you enjoy, or maybe the club on the weekend, that the only time you get when you're off work, that you get to be with your friends and create something you enjoy. Being able to create what I enjoy every day makes me feel like a big kid. And I've tried to hold on to that. Now that's hard to do too, because I am an adult. I have responsibilities. I have kids. So the inner kid is always fighting with this, let's just keep it together.
Yeah.
Let's just not break down and cry today. Let's just go take care of business, which I can switch that on like a light bulb. But it's really just like kind of distracting. Like the bright light is like, hey, look over here, because I'm really like this child inside that just wants to get back to my crayons and make something cool.
Is it cool if I ask a little bit of a personal question?
Of course, yes, please.
So last August,
Yes.
you publicly had to go to jail.
Yes.
Now, few questions on that. Was it Sac County?
Yeah, it was
downtown or
Sac
RCCC?
County downtown jail.
Like the barracks or the actual tower?
The actual towers, the ones that are on
Not fun.
I Street
Yep.
and 5th.
What was that like to go through publicly? Because, like, unfortunately, you caught some hate around that time, which is not fun. And then also just going to jail completely shifts how you look at humanity, how you look at your own life. It creates a sense of gratitude that I don't think you can get in any other way. And did you experience anything like that?
I think to add to it, to give more context to maybe someone listening to this is, just the cliff notes. It was I'd been going through a separation, and eventually we had to go to court to start the divorce process. So I had been previously giving a very, very large amount per month just to say, like, look, I don't want to pull the rug out from under you. Here's the support without a court order, just because. And then the court order said, hey, or in court, they said, look, let's just make a deal for 2 months. And it states this in the court order. Can you do $14,000 for child support each month for 2 months until we come back here and figure out the next step?
And that was explicitly stated.
Explicitly stated in the court order that it was temporary. And so I thought, I will make this happen, which I did. We met that deal. Well, we go back to court and they're like, well, we just think that there's more money there that we want to get and we need to kick this can down the road. And I said, this won't be sustainable. I already know it. Like giving away $200,000, whether you're a multi-million-dollar company or someone, who does very well personally, it's a lot.
So then you're stuck with that amount.
I'm stuck with that amount until there's a final judgment. And so where I started feeling the empathy for others through this process was, I was able to pay as much as I could up until, for years. This started in 2018 with that original court order. So you can do the math.
Holy crap.
So from 2018 to March of 2020, everything was fine. It was hard, but just they wanted more info. We provided all of our financial data. They're like, well, we need another independent person to look at this. And so when it came to the point where the world shut down in the pandemic and we didn't know where our next dollar was going to come from, let alone still taking care of my kids, being with them 50-50, which is the most important part about all of this. And so, fast forward, that's when the real heavy stuff started happening, was 2020. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I save my business, pay my employees, take care of my family, and take care of this court order. And that's when I started falling behind in arrears. So if I paid any amount less than $14,000, could be 10, could be 8, could be 5, that arrears starts building up. And
what's the plan with that? Like add it on when you can?
When you're in arrears, you're basically in contempt of the order, whether you agree with it or not. And they still had not been proven that I should be paying that amount. But now the court is like, look, we're just reading the rules. It says you're supposed to pay this and you're not. So now we go to a contempt court. They don't care. They're not there to work things out. They're like, why are you not paying this? So we explain. So you're in contempt. So we're going to give you, we're going to take your license. So I lost my driver's license for, at one point, months, like probably 3 months of no driving. Still having to Uber my kids to and from school because I still have my kids 50-50.
And it's not like you're not paying anything.
Yeah.
It's just you only paid what you could that month.
Yes.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
And we always updated with, taxes, financial information. We got to the point where, okay, now you get your license back, but now you have to do 60 hours community service. All still why the world is not back up and running how it used to be yet. So this is still on top of me trying to get the momentum going back up for my business. Fast forward to August of last year. You're in arrears. We've taken your license twice now, and you've done 60 hours community service. The only option left on the table for this court, because you're technically in contempt, is jail. So I remember this moment. They said, this is what's on the table. And then DCSS, who is like the Department of Child Services, they said, wait, before we do this, we have an option for home detention. So they take the lawyers out, they talk to them, they come back, and they say that the other party doesn't want that, and they want jail. And here's the thing, technically, on paper, I'm breaking the law, whether I agree with it or not.
It's a mature outlook.
It's the only way to, you can only be angry so much until laws are changed. Again, goes back to my empathy for, you name what law has been changed in the past, though it was a law, there's some laws that just weren't right for certain communities or people. Look at marijuana, for example, how much that has transformed over the years. And now federally, anyone who's just arrested for, some small amount of marijuana is able to be let go. And so, with this, I think my whole thing was, why didn't anyone look at this and say, why is that amount there? And why have we not let him prove that yet, that he is not able to afford that before we send him to jail?
And can he have any credit for not missing it for this long?
Correct. Yeah. Whatever reason was, but it didn't matter. They put me in cuffs in the court, and they walk me to the back, and they start taking you down into the process. And, my whole family was there. My fiance, who we had just got engaged 2 weeks before that, my parents, my future brother-in-law was there. They were there. They've been with me on this ride for 6-7 years since 2018 through this whole process. And it's come down to this. And I was just ready for whatever I had to deal with next. I didn't know what cell I was going into. I didn't know who was going to be in there. I didn't know who knew, if people knew who I was. But I'll say this, that, everyone in there is in fear in some way. And I was in there as fearful, but you're still like, look, this is where I am. I got to survive. And so, you do. There's these little things, like from how you eat to how you get through your day, how you meditate, work out, like whatever you can do to just get through it. If I were to sum up that whole experience, I think it was, obviously it played out publicly, even though I didn't want it to.
Yeah.
But what I got out of it was this empathy for people who don't have a voice. They don't have the opportunity to sit here and share this story about how they maybe ended up where they were. And if they technically broke the law, there's still circumstances where they weren't taught the skill sets to de-escalate situations or to plan better so that you know how to handle something when you get into it. And that is what it really opened me up to. I think too that anyone going in there, no matter what you've done, you still go in with fear. The biggest, hardest guys in there, there's still like a little bit of fear in them. That's why they have to have the bravado, because they're in fear. And so you have this energy around you that everyone's just like afraid of what's going to happen next. And that's how I felt. And I would fast forward and say, the empathy I have now for people that may not have been as mentally strong going in there. Because, for example, most people that go into jail, there's life circumstances that either they made a choice and think that it was right, which it probably wasn't, but mentally they haven't been strong enough to overcome just reacting in a moment. So they end up in there. And now you're in a place where you're like, it's all mentally straining, every part about it. And so if you're not mentally strong, you can get broken down really easy. I had never in my life imagined that I would end up in that situation. And, I think that the hate that came from it, I think part of it was maybe they already didn't like me anyways, and they're just like, here's something I can dogpile on. And maybe the other thing was you build a trust with the public and they're like, wait, this isn't the guy that you said you were. Is this true or not? So it leads people to speculate, were you being honest with us or were you lying? And that's a valid speculation, especially for someone who is, myself, I've been very involved in my community, from the philanthropy side to just, helping people in general and showing support and pride for my city. So it was all valid, whether I agree with it or not.
Well, there's a third pillar of those people too, of people that just thrive in other people. There's people waiting around, because I'm seeing it too. I didn't think that if you build a show that showcases personal stories of people, that someone's going to find a way to try to say negative stuff about it. It's blown my mind. So it says more about them. But I think there's a third pillar of people that are just going to hate and just want to make people feel bad, whether they're jealous of where you are or what. But you know what I'm talking about. They're just constantly trying to hurt you, essentially.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Just like you put a creation out there to be judged and people just send negativity over it for no reason. Like, how do you handle that?
Well, I think I was a little naive before that, thinking that maybe more people liked me than I did, and I cared about that. And these are people close to me, people who I've had dinners with them, and I've had rounds of golf with them, and you name it. And then I read comments, and I'm like, maybe this wasn't the relationship that I should have had in the first place. Maybe they were hanging out with me for different reasons. And so I look at it like, however they feel, thanks for telling me what I needed to know about you. Now that you're judging me based on my situation, my personal situation, thank you for shining a light and tell me exactly who you are as well. And that whole situation drew a line in the sand. And I'll tell you this, the moment I turned my phone on when I got out, the first texts and emails that I received were from some of like the biggest, most prominent leaders in the city, and people who are just like, they don't care what happened. They just said, we're here for you.
That's awesome.
And whatever you need, if you need to talk, I'm here. I will never forget those names. I'll be there for them for anything that they need, because I think that they realize too, like we all go through some hard times, again, justified or not. It sucks to go through something so public.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I remember a radio station jumped, hey, did you guys hear about this? And why?
Yeah. Before I went to jail, there was an author that I came across. His name's Damon West. He wrote a book called The Coffee Bean. And Damon was sentenced to life in prison. And when he first went in there, he met a gentleman who said, you become three things in prison. One of three things. And imagine prison is this boiling pot of water.
Right.
You become the carrot, which is soft and you break down. You become the egg, which creates a very hard shell and just becomes hard. Or you become the coffee bean. And so he's like, what do you think happens to the coffee bean in the boiling pot of water? It changes the water into coffee. You change the environment. So I read Damon's story, and Damon went to prison for 6 years thinking he's going for life. Like he had been there, and they eventually let him out on parole for life. And he's become, this is 10 years ago, he's become one of the most best-selling authors. He's been on every major podcast speaking circuit. And I've recently met him and shared, we've connected on different times. But I think about people like him in that scenario. Everyone is that. They're either the carrot, the egg, or the coffee bean. And I went in there thinking, I want to be the coffee bean. Whoever I interact with, I need to be graceful, positive. I need to have empathy. And if I have to stand up for myself, then I do. Mm-hmm. But
so much of that mindset of, hey, if I got to get tough, I will, can be avoided with what you're bringing to the table. Like we were talking about out there, you kind of get back what you put out.
Yeah.
Reality is a reflection of your thoughts, your actions, how you're treating others.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And, I had a lot of time to think, like, how did I go from like performing at the White House to now I'm sitting in a jail cell? You go through these thoughts, and it was one of the hardest things that I had ever experienced, but also I had learned my greatest lessons going through this. And I learned that as time passes, things heal, time heals everything. And also, fast forward a few months after I was out, we changed the order because I finally hired a better lawyer than I had before. She put together the same financial info we've had since the beginning, presented it to the court, and the court changed the order to a fraction of what it was in the beginning.
Wow. To probably a more realistic, like where it should have been.
Yeah. And so I think, it sucks that I went through what I did, but maybe God had a bigger plan for me to experience this. And for some reason, I needed to grow in empathy for a person that I may meet 10 years from now, or someone that may ask for my advice for something.
Or somebody that watches you do it and they end up in the same situation. They're like, he did it, I can do it.
Yes.
And save a life.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And so I just take it as, if this was God's plan, I need to get something out of this. I need to learn something from this.
What about spirituality for you? What does your relationship with God look like on a daily basis? Do you incorporate that into your art? Talk to me a little bit about your spiritual life.
My spiritual journey has always been pretty up and down. I grew up going to Capital Christian School for elementary school. My parents got divorced, and then I didn't go back to church until I was 25. But when I went back to church at 25, I had already started my career, but it took a completely different upwards turn in the positive, like in a way that I could never imagine. So, and it wasn't just that like God was rewarding me. It was God started putting me to work in a different way. We started using my platform instead of just entertaining to benefit so many other people, raise money for organizations that we believed in. And it was that greater purpose of my spiritual walk and my relationship with God that helped me see that this is bigger than just painting. Like you kind of opened this up when you were saying, I remember you saying this, that, it's all these random strokes on a canvas that ultimately come together as a portrait. And that's what this journey has felt like. It felt like random. I don't know what this is. I don't know why I'm doing this, why this color is here, or why I'm going to this place. But when I rededicated my life to Christ, that portrait came together. And I think since then, going through a divorce at some point, and then having to find myself again, I always went back to my walk with Christ to recenter. My fiance and I are both, we both have God centered in our life and our family. And it's helped us get through not only, hard and great times, but it also helps us have a better vision for where we want our family to be in the future.
Okay, you pray, you put an intention out, you ask a question,
Yes.
You say, I need guidance. What does that look like when oh, thank you, God? Is it a voice? Is it coincidences with people? How do you hear his direction?
Yeah, I think hearing God's direction is, I feel like it's two parts. One, you have to read the Bible. That's God's word. So you read these stories about people who have been through trials and how they've gone through it and overcame it. And then when you experience something similar, you're like, oh, it's like that story in God's word that he told us, that when you go through this is how you handle it. And then you do it and you see the result of it. And you realize God's word is true. I'm seeing it happen in my own life.
So yours is good. You go back to the Bible constantly.
I think you have to. I think that there's no other way. Otherwise, you are kind of feeling your way through it, which I know I've probably done that. But when I've compared it to reading my Bible, going through stories that feel similar, and then it plays out in my life, I just give the credit to God. I said, thank you, God. And I think about it like, thank you, God, for giving us this word that we can use as a reference to where we are in life, what we should be doing. And then I think too, the second part outside of the Bible is our job is to love. Our job is to have compassion for everyone. I'll share one story. I hope I don't, I may start getting, crying about this, but my sister, who I don't talk about publicly a lot, it's probably the first time, but, she's been on the street since she was 18.
And still is?
And still is. Oh. She's in her 40s now. And it goes to show me that you can come from any family. Our family is, I have incredible parents and have fought for us in every single way, including my sister through her time on the streets, her addiction that she's dealt with, and you name it. But having a sister who is going through that now, when I drive by these tents on the street, my perspective is completely different than maybe someone who references something online about complaining about tents.
Like it's a visual nuisance.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like, God, what have these people gone through where they ended up here? And how can we change policies and help them? And that to me is that's when I really see the love and compassion that we're supposed to have our one job. And I've experienced that with my sister. No matter where she is, she kind of comes in and out here and there. And when she's here, it's like, I don't care what you've been through. I love you. I miss you. I don't need you to be any certain way. Just know that you're loved and that your family is always here and thinking about you. That's it. That's all we have to do. And that should apply to anyone else that we come across in life. When I was in jail, the person next to my cell that I would talk to through the little slit, I have to have compassion for what he's going through, what he's been through. Someone that's checking me out at the grocery store, my job is to show compassion and love for them if they're having a bad day or good. It's reading the word and the Bible. They have great apps for it. That's what I use. And then giving love and compassion to anyone that we come in contact with.
That's going to lead to a good life.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It has. Yeah.
Any other stories you want to tell? Anything you want to share?
Man, I think for just an encouragement to artists or creatives.
Yes, please.
That it's really hard to pursue art as a career. And the reason why we want to is we want to fulfill this dream or skill set that came to us natural. But what comes with that is a lot more discipline than I think that they may think. Creativity is a privilege to be able to do it as a career. So with that, it's going to require a lot more discipline and work. And so I think I want to make sure that I encourage artists and creatives that when I say, show up at 9 a.m. and the inspiration strikes, like, do it. Don't wait for the feeling of doing the work. Just do it. And the creative process will take place. If it's truly in you, it'll wake up and it'll take you where you're destined to go.
Whew. Goosebumps again. That's so cool. Isn't that anywhere in life? You can't spend all your time waiting for the end goal to reach you or waiting to feel how you're going to feel at the end goal. You have to start moving and the path unfolds.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of discipline. There's a Stoic saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but inspiration will not suffice. It always falls back on discipline for the long haul success.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, right on.
No,
thank you so
Trevor,
much, dude.
Thank you. And,
awesome.
This is incredible what you're building. Before I came here, I've seen so many clips. I started following before we even reached out. I was just like, I just love this vibe. I love the stories you're telling. So, man, keep building that momentum.
Yeah, man. Thank you. We will. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a comment. Show these guests some support. What part impacted you the most so we can make them feel really good. These are real stories and raw emotions. Thank you.